A Millionaire's Early Return uncovers. 3. Surprising secrets behind his daughter's sleepless nights. Jack Thompson stepped into his quaint Midwestern hometown. The familiar sense of rain-soaked earth and fresh-cut grass mixing with a sense of foreboding. He should have felt eager, ready to reconnect with his roots after weeks spent navigating the high-stakes world of Silicon Valley. But something gnawed at him, the weight of a troubling revelation. Was it truly his business dealings that brought him success, or had he sacrificed the most precious connection of all? His relationship with his daughter, Emily? As he approached his childhood home, the singular thought hammered in his mind. Why had he suddenly returned early? A million excuses crisscrossed in his brain. A sudden urge to check in on Emily. A mounting sense of anxiety about how exhausting his work had become. Yet, as he drew closer, the warmth of home seemed overshadowed by an unshakable dread. Dinner was a tradition meant to revive cherished memories of laughter and warmth. But the air felt thick with silence. The homemade casserole, once a beacon of comfort, sat unconsumed on the table, its aroma suffocating. He expected chatter, playful jabs of family banter, yet Emily, his vibrant daughter, merely picked at her food. Jack felt his palms grow clammy, heart racing. Was it possible that their bond had severed during his quests for monetary success? "How was your day, Em?" he ventured, a nervous laugh escaping his lips. She dropped her fork, looking up at him with eyes filled with shadows. "Just the same as always," she replied, her voice a whisper that sent shivers down Jack's spine. He felt the first pang of guilt twist in his gut. Just same? It was a loaded word. An emotional dilemma surged within him. When had he stopped being present in the most important moments of her life? Before he could contemplate what to say next, Emily spoke, her voice trembling. "Dad, I've been struggling with anxiety. It's been hard for a long time." The words smacked him in the face. Anxiety? Pressure? How could he have been so consumed by his ambitions that he hadn't even realized his daughter had been faltering? As he struggled to process her admission, his heart twisted in anguish. Unintentionally, he had forced the expectations of his success upon her shoulders. "Please, go on," he swallowed, every part of him wanting to reach through the space between them, to bridge the unbearably thick distance. "I was trying to help. Kids at school who don't have much. I thought, maybe if I did something good, I could make a difference," Emily confessed, a light flickering in her eyes. But then, it dimmed as she revealed her hidden talent for art, a passion she buried under the weight of his ambitions and her own fears. Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Jack felt the anxious swell in his chest. He wanted to support her, yet those ingrained ambitions loomed like shadows. Their bond felt fragile, each word a step closer to a chasm of misunderstanding. Tension prickled the air as he cautioned himself against pushing his own dreams onto her. Wind against a flame. The conversation reached a crisis when Emily's artwork got submitted for a local exhibit without her knowledge, only to receive harsh criticism the day he returned. The hurt in her eyes was more than he could bear. Her dreams torn asunder sent adrenaline pulsing through his veins, a storm of realization crashing through. His relentless pursuit of excellence had smothered her spirit, and here he stood, paralyzed at the crossroads. Would his next move push her away or draw her closer? Every moment teetered on the brink of total collapse, their futures intertwined yet so precariously balanced. Jack could feel the suffocating tension, a silence teetering on the edge, thick with unresolved emotions. What lay ahead was frightful, yet necessary. He glanced at Emily, the distance between them feeling insurmountable and aching. A plea whispered through his heart. Could he mend this fractured trust and finally let her voice be heard? Each passing second weighed heavier, leaving him grappling with a reality he desperately did not want to face but could no longer ignore. The weight of the moment pressed down hard on Jack. He knew this was not simply about dinner or family traditions. It was about a fracture deep within the fabric of their lives. A fracture he had overlooked for so long. Silence enveloped the kitchen, punctuated only by the soft ticking of the wall clock, each tick a reminder of time slipping by, the time he had missed. "Emily, I'm so sorry," he finally said, his voice barely above a whisper. The sincerity in his tone resonated in the charged atmosphere, and for the first time, he stepped away from the spotlight of his own success to shine it on her. "I didn't know. I didn't realize how much you were carrying." She looked at him, her gaze piercing and vulnerable. "You were always busy, Dad. I thought it was normal to think everyone needed to fix things, to be perfect." Her shoulders slumped slightly, as if each confession stripped away a layer of her burden. "I wanted to be like you, chasing after success. But I'm just scared." Jack felt a knot tightening in his throat. Her fear mirrored his own, the fear of failure, fear of irrevocable mistakes. Somewhere along the way, they had each confused achievement with worth. He could see now how his relentless pursuit had left her feeling less than, drowning under the pressure of expectations. "You don't have to be perfect, Em. You just need to be you. That's more than enough." He noticed a flicker of hope in her dark eyes, a glimmer that ignited the conversation further. Jack was suddenly aware of how vital it was to listen, not only to her words, but to the emotion woven into them. "Let's talk about your art," he said. "I'd love to see what you've been working on." Emily hesitated at first, then stood up and walked toward the small corner of the dining room, cluttered with sketches still resting in the shadows. As she pulled out a piece, her hands trembled slightly. This was for the exhibit, but..." Her voice faltered, disappointment flooding her expression. "Let me see," he encouraged. She reluctantly handed him the drawing, and he studied it intently. It was an intricate piece, an explosion of color, vulnerability wrapped in talent. The essence of her struggles echoed through the swirls of paint and fading lines. "Emily, this is incredible." Her cheeks flushed with disbelief. "You really think so?" "Absolutely. This shows so much of who you are. Your heart." The words spilled from Jack as he felt the enormity of the moment. Encouraging her to pursue her art, valued the essence of Emily more than any corporate achievement could. As they continued to talk, Jack felt each topic unravel layers of misunderstanding. They discussed the critiques she had faced, and the fear of putting herself out there. Jack shared his own failures, times when business prospects fell flat, moments when he felt lost in the pursuit of success. It felt liberating to disclose his imperfections, weaving their struggles into a shared narrative of resilience. Hours passed like minutes, and finally, what began as a tense meal transformed into genuine conversation, a breakthrough of sorts. Jack realized it was not just Emily who needed him to be present. He needed her too. The notion settled within him like a soothing balm, awakening old instincts he had long buried under corporate ambition. As evening deepened, a tentative yet powerful bond began to reshape the atmosphere in the room. He felt an insatiable urge to explore this rediscovered connection, a newfound duty to champion his daughter's dreams, regardless of their differences. But as he tucked her in later, another realization washed over him. Being a good father didn't just mean offering support. It meant stepping back from his expectations and rediscovering what he truly valued. He looked at the drawings displayed around her room, each one a testament to her spirit, a spirit he had almost stifled. The night felt heavy with promise as Jack contemplated the path ahead. He would need to change, to confront not only his own ingrained values, but also his drive for success, which had overshadowed the very essence of family. Without a word, he closed her bedroom door quietly, and as he paced the hallway, Jack fumbled with the complex emotions now surging inside him. Tomorrow would bring questions, and he needed to confront his own ghosts. His relentless chase had come at a price. The question stood unvoiced in the stillness. Was success worth the sacrifice? Each step toward the staircase echoed like a deliberate challenge as he began to realize. A real journey of discovery lay ahead. One he had to face not only for himself, but for Emily. As the first light of dawn crept through the curtains, Jack lay awake, the remnants of yesterday's revelations floating through his mind. The night had been layered with reflections, each one a piece of a puzzle he had long avoided confronting. He felt an urgency to not only understand his daughter, but to reshape the very foundation of his own life. Rising from bed, he moved quietly to the kitchen, a newfound determination guiding each step. The stillness felt different today, no longer suffocating but rather alive with potential. The aroma of brewed coffee filled the air, a welcome companion as he faced the reality ahead. Walking to the window, he took a moment to breathe, allowing the warmth of the sun to seep into his bones. Today, he thought, is about change. But the larger question loomed. How would he implement this change? Drawing deep from his past experiences, he realized he had always approached challenges with strategies tailored to business, driven by numbers and logic. Yet, with Emily, the path was deeply emotional and far less predictable. He needed to pivot, to apply the successful components of his career to the dynamics of fatherhood. Jack envisioned the way he handled business pitches. He analyzed his audience, understood their hesitations, and tailored his message accordingly. What if he applied the same principles to Emily? Rather than offering advice or solutions, he needed to probe. He needed to listen more than speak, to understand what made her heart race with excitement or curl with fear. His next move was clear. Instead of waiting for Emily to approach him, he would create an environment where she felt comfortable and safe to express herself. Breakfast would be different today. He would transform their routine into a space that encouraged openness. As he prepared pancakes, he thought about how food had always been a connector in their family, and how vulnerability could emerge over shared meals. When Emily finally emerged from her room, her expression was still tinged with sleep. Jack greeted her with a smile that felt genuine, free of the weight he had been carrying. "Hey, how about we make this a special breakfast? Pancakes and maybe, just maybe, a little maple syrup?" The creases on her forehead softened, and a small smile crept across her lips. "That sounds great, Dad." As they shared breakfast, Jack encouraged Emily to talk about her art, delving deeper rather than skimming the surface. "What inspired you to create that piece?" he asked, his curiosity genuine, the words a bridge to understanding. Her eyes lit up, and for a moment, Jack could see the shadows of doubt dissipate. She spoke of colors representing emotions, adding layers he had never even contemplated. Inspired by her passion, he began to reflect on his own life, his drive for success, the numbers that had dictated so much of his world. Perhaps he had been painting in one color, while the entire palette lay untouched. Jack felt the crispness of clarity, recognizing how interconnected their fears were. "What if I told you I sometimes feel scared too? Scared of what might happen next in my career?" The idea startled him, laying bare a vulnerability he had avoided for years. Emily looked surprised, but intrigued. "Really?" "Yes. That's why I want to support you fully. I want us to be honest with each other about our fears and dreams," Jack said, a surge of sincerity propelling his words. The conversation breathed life into the room, binding them with threads of shared anxiety and courage. Each revelation was a softening, chipping away at the walls they had both built over years. But even as they connected, Jack felt a nagging anticipation in the back of his mind. There were still weights pressing down on Emily, regrets over missed opportunities and failures she had yet to voice. His resolve to confront those together stirred something in him that felt both daunting and exhilarating. The day stretched ahead, a canvas waiting to be painted with fresh strokes of honesty and patience. Just as Jack began to form plans for their next conversation, the doorbell rang, shattering the intimate bubble they had just created. Who could it be? That lingering uncertainty sent a jolt through him. Would this visitor further complicate the fragile bond they were constructing? As he glanced at Emily's curious expression, he couldn't shake the feeling that this interruption would lead them to an unexpected revelation, one they might not be prepared to face just yet. The doorbell rang again, insistent and jarring against the newfound tranquility of the morning. Jack looked toward the door, the uncertainty curling around his thoughts like a creeping vine. Who could it be? The query nagged at him, igniting a mix of anxiety and curiosity. "We should go see," Emily suggested, her voice steadier than Jack felt. The warmth from breakfast receded, replaced by an apprehension that sent jitters through his stomach. "All right," he replied, masking his nerves with a smile. He approached the door, bracing himself for whatever awaited him on the other side. He could sense Emily hovering behind him, her excitement mingling with trepidation. As he pulled the door open, his breath hitched. Standing before him was a familiar family friend, Rachel, her face somewhat tense, a shadow obscuring her usual warmth. "Hey, Jack, I hope I'm not interrupting," she began, glancing sideways at Emily, who stepped forward, her expression shifting from curiosity to concern. "What's going on, Rachel?" Jack's voice tightened. Instinctually, he felt the airs of their previous dynamic swing into action, aware of the unspoken tension that clung to the air. The energy shifted, reminding him of boardroom meetings where uncertain news often felt like a heavy weight. Rachel took a deep breath, and Jack noticed a flicker of hesitation play across her features. "I came to talk about Emily." The room seemed to close in, the walls pressing tightly around them as Jack pulled Rachel inside, closing the door behind him. "What about her?" he asked, his heart pounding as he braced for any implications that might follow. Emily stood to the side, her arms wrapped protectively around herself, her demeanor shifting from one of openness to defensiveness in an instant. Jack cursed himself internally for not foreseeing how an unexpected visit could spiral into vulnerability. "She's been through a lot lately, and, well, I think you both need to address some things more directly," Rachel began, her voice steady but edged with concern. "I'm worried about her. She seems lost." Every word felt like a jab, exposing the cracks Jack had thought they were mending. "We're working on it, Rachel," he replied, trying to convey firmness, though his voice wavered. It was a feeble defense, and deep down, he knew it. As Jack glanced toward Emily, sapphires of distress welled in her eyes. "Are you saying I can't handle myself?" she challenged, her tone rising, tension escalating. Jack could witness the shift from open communication back toward isolation. The warmth they had just shared seemed to evaporate, absorbed by the very air. "No, Em, you know that isn't what Rachel meant," Jack interjected, urgency coursing through him. He took a step closer to Emily, wishing to bridge the distance manifested not only physically, but emotionally. "Yet," Rachel continued, "you might not see it, but I do. Amy told me how you hardly sleep, and how during those sleepless nights your mind races with worries." I felt it was important to let Jack know. The mention of Emily's struggles left Jack shaken, the reality of her turmoil stark and unwelcome. He had sensed her unease, but had shrouded it with his own fears. "Emily, you could have told me," he said quietly, attempting to re-establish that connection they'd just forged. "I didn't want to worry you," she retorted sharply, closing herself off behind a wall of frustration and hurt. Jack felt his chest tighten. The conversation was no longer just a discussion on art, but a floodgate of deeper issues waiting to spill forth. "You don't have to take this on alone," he urged, feeling the rush of urgency coursing through his veins. We can face our worries together." As silence stretched between them, Jack could see the flickers of internal conflict in Emily's eyes. Would she let down her walls after they had just started to mend? Would she be willing to face her truths, as he was coming to terms with his? Before he could say more, Emily turned away from him, her mind lost in a torrent of internal strife. Rachel's expression betrayed concern, catching Jack's eye as if to remind him that this was not just about connecting with his daughter anymore, but about holding on amid the chaos. The tension within the room grew so thick that Jack could nearly taste it. They stood at a precipice, each harboring personal struggles that remained unspoken. What would it take to coax the bitter truth into light? "Jack," Rachel's voice broke through the thick air. "This might be a good time for you both to express what you've been keeping bottled up." Each word felt laden with expectation, hinting at the weighty decisions still lurking in shadows. But how could he pull that truth from her when hers was entwined with his own? As he searched for answers in her gaze, a reminder echoed painfully in his mind. Unveiling their vulnerabilities was necessary for growth, but could they truly trust each other enough to embark upon such a risky journey? "All I know is that we need to confront the secrets hiding in the dark before they consume us completely." Jack's thoughts spiraled toward the unresolved, each resolution looming like an unwrapped gift. What awaited them beyond this moment, and would the cost of clarity bind them together or fracture what they had begun to reconstruct? The echoes of their fears and truths began to rise, and in that charged space, Jack was left grappling with the direction they were headed, his mind racing to the edge. Jack took a step back, his mind racing through the implications of Rachel's words. He glanced at Emily, who was obscured by a haze of unshared thoughts. Those striking blue eyes, once vibrant with youthful energy, were now clouded. It was a painful sight, and it sparked a mix of frustration and recognition deep within him. Somewhere in their chase of art and connection, a darker truth had crept into their lives, knotting itself around their relationships. He said softly, struggling to break through the fog of uncertainty. I know we're both trying to figure things out, but whatever's going on, we can face it together." The desperation in his voice shimmered in the air, a thick layer of sincerity battling against the rising tide of vulnerability that had yet to break. He felt the gravity of his own unaddressed fears manifesting in the avoidance that had seeped into their lives, like a poisonous ink staining a canvas. Emily turned slightly, her back still to him, but he sensed that she was hesitating. "Do you even see me? Or am I just an afterthought, Jack?" she snapped, anger sharpening her tone. Laced within her fury was an undeniable plea, an essence of hurt that requested acknowledgement. Jack's heart sank. The buried truth stung anew. She felt invisible. It was a raw revelation that resurrected his own past insecurities. It made him wonder if he was perpetuating a cycle of neglect without even realizing it. "Of course I see you," he protested, stepping forward. "But I can't just fix everything. You have to meet me halfway. You need to tell me what's really going on." Suddenly, Emily whipped around, her eyes glistening. "You think I enjoy sleepless nights? This has been my life for months, Dad. It's like a storm in my mind I can't control." Jack winced at her words. They carried the tension he had felt in both his personal and professional life. He understood storms. He'd navigated through hostile meetings and desolate negotiations. But this was different. This was family. In that moment, Rachel stepped in, bridging the space between father and daughter. "Jack, it's not about fixing her," she said gently. "It's about understanding where she is, without judgment, just listening." He exhaled, rattled by her insight. Listening required vulnerability, a state he was all too familiar with avoiding. It felt foreign yet essential, like learning to swim in the deep end without the safety of the shallow waters. Jack reached out tentatively. "Emily, I want to understand. Can you share what you've been feeling? What's a typical night like for you?" Silence hung like a heavy fog. Emily hesitated but gradually stepped into the light of honesty. "Well, when I lay down to sleep," her voice caught, "I think about everything. School, friends, expectations. And sometimes, it's like I can't turn my mind off." Each word became an unspooled thread, unraveling the tangled ball of anxiety she carried. Jack listened, gripping the intensity of her statements, feeling a spark of empathy reignite. He had dealt with his share of expectations, both in business and home life. The sleepless nights had chased him too, clawing at his resolve. "What do you think would help?" he asked, shifting the focus, willing to embrace the susceptibility of the moment. He felt restless, but knew the futility of trying to fix her without first really understanding. "I don't know," she admitted, an ounce of vulnerability piercing through her steadfast exterior. "Maybe talking about it, journaling. I just need to breathe." As Jack absorbed her words, he mirrored them to himself. He realized how alike they were, how deeply these webs of worry had ensnared them both. Rachel's voice cut through their silence. "You both need time to navigate this together. It's about creating a safe space where that communication can flow freely." Jack nodded, determinedly looking at Emily with a newfound urgency. "We can build that space, Em. I'll work on listening better. What if we set aside time each week to talk? Just us, no distractions." A flicker of hope bridged the previous abyss between them, and Jack watched the corner of Emily's mouth twitch upward, as if she was unsure if to laugh or cry. The intention gleaming in his eyes felt like a promise, a chance to redefine their dynamic. "Okay," she murmured finally, tentatively embracing what felt like a fragile truce. As the air shifted, Jack felt a tentative affirmation pulsate in his chest. Each stepping stone placed now seemed to lead toward a deeper understanding, yet faintly tinged on the edges with uncertainty. Rachel's weighty presence in the room had lessened, yet Jack could sense the enormity of the challenge ahead. Would this little agreement truly lead to the breakthroughs they all sought? Or would the truths they uncovered only deepen their divides? And as each moment ticked by toward the unknown, Jack couldn't shake the feeling that this rekindled promise might unveil even more secrets lurking beneath their surfaces. Would they weather the storm together? Or would the next wave of vulnerability pull them further apart? The next day dawned with an unfamiliar clarity as Jack awoke, the promise of change lingering in the air. He felt a determination to navigate this delicate new dynamic, but the night's unresolved tensions gnawed at him like a persistent itch. He had agreed to create a safe space for Emily, but creating that oasis required more than just words. It demanded an active pursuit of understanding. As the day unfolded, Jack busied himself with his work, an antidote to the anxieties swirling in his mind. He had always prided himself on being a decisive leader. Consultations, negotiations, and planning further into the fiscal future were his domain. Yet now, the confidence that usually accompanied his professional persona felt marred by his personal life. For years, he successfully projected authority in the boardroom, but here, with his daughter, he felt vulnerable, fragile in the face of raw emotion. He turned to Rachel for guidance, seeking out her perspective as they emerged from the fog of early morning coffee and muted television chatter. "What if I'm not enough?" he admitted, over the soft clinking of mugs. "What if I can't break through to Emily? Everything is so complicated." Rachel studied him, her gaze unwavering. "You're not meant to be enough, Jack. She doesn't need a hero. She needs you to be present. Just show up for her. Sometimes that's more meaningful than any solution you might offer." Her words resonated, striking a chord deep in his chest. Presence. It seemed so simple yet profoundly challenging. The weight of realizing that he had often been emotionally absent ignited a relentless nagging in his conscience. How many moments had he missed while chasing success? The question haunted him, urging a deeper reflection. That evening, as he prepared for his first intentional conversation with Emily, A sense of dread washed over him. How could he facilitate this space without pushing too hard? He decided to structure their talks with understanding rather than direction, inviting her to guide the conversation. He resisted the impulse to write down his thoughts, wanting to be organic and responsive rather than scripted. When Emily arrived home, Jack observed her with newfound attentiveness. Gone was the defensive posture from the previous day. This Emily seemed more open, even if only slightly. They settled in the small nook of the living room, cushions piled high with the remnants of more carefree evenings. Fluorescent lights dimmed, and the chatter of the world outside faded as they began their dialogue. "Hey," Jack started simply, noting her tentative expression. "I thought we could just talk about what's been on your mind. No judgment, just listening." For a moment, she regarded him with skepticism. Then, the tiniest nod of acknowledgement crossed her lips, as if she were contemplating the enormity of this exchange. "What if I was honest?" Emily ventured, her voice unsteady. "What if I told you that I don't want to be anything? Just try to get through high school. I feel so much pressure to be perfect, and sometimes I wonder, am I ever going to make it?" A pang of recognition hit Jack like a physical blow. He had felt that same pressure throughout his career, the relentless pursuit of an unattainable ideal. The ghosts of his corporate battles played out vividly in his memory. "It's tough to breathe when so much is expected of you," he replied, attempting to connect the threads of their shared experiences. They exchanged glances, a flicker of mutual acknowledgement sparking between them. Would this moment catalyze something deeper, a revelation that might lighten the burdens they carried? As the conversation unfolded, Jack discovered the depth of her fears had roots in the same soil he once tilled. The pressure of expectations, the fear of failure, the longing for approval. It became painfully clear that familial patterns weren't just passed down by blood. They lived and thrived in silence, resulting in fears inscribed in their DNA. As he listened, he couldn't shake the realization that these truths were merely the surface. Beneath Emily's words lay a reservoir of insight yet to be explored, mysteries of her past that might unveil even more profound connections. The conversation shifted when Jack tentatively asked, "What do you think will help you find your footing?" The question hung in the air, but instead of a response, he noticed her brow furrowing, contemplating something much more significant than his original inquiry. It was a break in the storm, but the winds continued to swirl within. "Dad," Emily finally said, hesitating as if probing the water before jumping in. "There's something I haven't told you. Something I'm scared of." Jack's heart raced. The vulnerability in her voice indicated this would lead to a revelation, a vehicle for profound change. Would he be ready for what came next? As dread and curiosity mixed in the pit of his stomach, he realized that each truth would demand a piece of him too. He leaned in closer, preparing himself for whatever she was about to disclose, ready to embark on a journey that reached deep into the heart of their family dynamic. Would this be the breakthrough they both needed? Or would it dredge up fears previously unaddressed? The moment was ripe with potential, and Jack could feel the weight of it, heavy, uncertain, and electrifying. Jack held his breath as Emily's eyes glistened, a mixture of fear and hope flickering within them. The silence pressed heavily, each second stretching taut like a string ready to snap. He felt an uncharacteristic insecurity tinged with an urgency to reach her. "I'm scared of failing, Dad," she finally blurted out, her voice a whisper threaded with vulnerability. "It's like I'm constantly on this treadmill, running fast but never getting anywhere." Her hands fidgeted, twisting her fingers into knots, as if to physically process the weight of her words. Jack's throat tightened. "I get that," he began, both trembling and resolute. "It's exhausting." His mind raced, revisiting moments of his own relentless pursuits. "But maybe failing isn't the worst thing that can happen," he ventured, testing the waters. "What do you mean? You always talk about success," Emily shot back, her brows knitted in disbelief. Success is often celebrated, but failure can teach us. It can strip us down to our core, show us who we really are. I've learned more from my failures than my wins, he said, realizing how foreign that perspective felt as he spoke. Like what? She challenged, her skepticism diminishing slightly. I guess I can take you back to a time when I lost a major deal. It felt like a punch to the gut, made me question everything I believed about myself as a leader. But that experience pushed me to innovate and adapt, he explained, reliving those moments of doubt. In the end, it helped me become a better version of myself. Jack paused, gauging the flickering spark of curiosity in Emily's eyes. He sensed opportunity for deeper dialogue, a chance to dismantle the barriers between them. You can't let fear define you, Em, he continued, voice steadying. Instead, let it inform you. Build from it. Channel that pressure into something authentic. Who you really are. What makes you feel alive? As he spoke, it dawned on him how this conversation was mirroring his own journey in the corporate world, where he had often needed to step back and reevaluate his motives. Perhaps, just perhaps, they were tangled in a shared narrative of stepping beyond expectation. I don't know, she replied quietly, eyes drifting downwards, then suddenly striking up with renewed strength. But when I think of what makes me feel alive, it feels out of reach, like a dream I'm afraid to chase. Jack sensed this was a pivotal moment. What if I told you that you don't have to chase perfection? You're just starting. It's okay to be on a journey. No one walks it completely alone. The air around them felt alive, charged with possibilities. Dad, I feel so lost most days, like I'm drowning in expectations. Everyone thinks I have it all figured out, and I can't let them see that I don't, she admitted, raw vulnerability etched in her features. Her candidness gripped him, sparking both concern and admiration. Would he have had the courage to express such fears at her age? Maybe they're lost too, he suggested gently. We all wear masks sometimes, pretending we have everything under control. It's okay to take them off, even just with each other. Emily considered this, tilting her head slightly. The corners of her mouth fluttered, as if a smile was trapped within her uncertainty. This was the connection he had sought, the passage into her world. Yet a thought nagged at Jack. How could he not only support her, but ignite the flame of her authenticity? Have you thought about what makes you passionate? Maybe it's art, or science, or helping others? He probed gently, seeking to illuminate the dark corners where her interests might lie hidden. I don't know. I like to draw, she stumbled, recalling the countless sketches tucked away, illustrations of hidden dreams she had never shared. But I never thought I could do anything with it. Why not? Jack pressed, sudden excitement flooding his voice. You have a gift, Em. Just think about it. What if you started sharing it? It could light a new path for you. Jack could see a shift taking place, a flicker of recognition crossing her features. While he didn't have all the answers, they were crafting a dialogue together, one that might reveal hidden abilities neither had acknowledged before. Maybe I could try, Emily breathed, her eyes brightening in a newfound determination. But what if I fail again? He met her gaze, grounding the moment with reassurance. Then we'll figure it out together, just like we are now. Failing doesn't define you. It's a chance to redefine yourself. Jack felt a surge of hope mingle with trepidation. This was just the beginning of a deeper exploration into Emily's world, but it was riddled with uncertainties. The dialogue they were crafting together felt monumental, yet Jack sensed unresolved shadows lingering just beneath the surface. Dad, can we explore this drawing thing together? I want your perspective, Emily suggested tentatively, uncertainty tinged with hope. He smiled, relieved and invigorated by her request. Absolutely. We need to make time for it. Yet even as he agreed, A wave of concern washed over him. There were layers to explore, intricacies yet to untangle, issues that might threaten the peace they had found in their conversation. As she leaned closer, animated by the prospect of discovery, Jack's heart quickened with anticipation. Their relationship was evolving, but how would they confront the fears lurking in the shadows? "There's something I need to show you," Emily suddenly announced. Jack's heart sank, unease clouding the excitement of their strides toward connection. What would this reveal? Would it disrupt their newfound pact? "I'm not sure you'll like it," she added, her laughter laced with nervous energy. "What is it?" he asked, bracing for the coming revelation. "It's about those sleepless nights." As the words left her lips, Jack's breath caught. The journey was just beginning, and he felt the looming weight of Emily's truth pressing in on them both. Would his readiness to support her withstand the truths that lay ahead? Would he be able to face the fears that threatened to resurface? Jack's heart raced, uncertainty swelling within him like a tide threatening to crash. Emily's admission hung in the air, heavy with implications he couldn't yet grasp. What could possibly lurk in the shadows of her sleepless nights? He had seen hints of her struggles, almost like whispers in the corners of their conversations, but he had never anticipated the full truth would reveal itself so suddenly. "What do you mean by that?" he asked, his tone firm yet gentle, steering clear of panic. Emily hesitated, her gaze flickering away as if searching for anchors in her swirling emotions. I've been having these thoughts, doubts. I don't know how to turn them off," she finally confessed. "They keep me up, you know? Like a running commentary reminding me how unworthy I feel." Each word she uttered resonated with Jack, stirring dormant reflections. He instinctively thought back to moments in his own life where anxiety had whispered doubts into his ear, convincing him of untruths. This revelation was not just about Emily. It intersected with his own journey. Here was an opportunity for him to confront past fears alongside her, to forge a deeper connection built on shared understanding. "Have you written any of it down?" Jack asked, hoping to turn her turbulence into something tangible. "Maybe we can look at it together." "It's just so messy," she mumbled, her cheeks flushed, vulnerability spilling over. "I don't even know where to start. It's like these ideas are darkness, swirling around and blocking out everything else." In that moment, Jack realized the gravity of her internal struggle. Her creativity was stifled by her fears, muffled like an artist frozen in a blank canvas. He thought of the countless times he had faced similar walls in his professional life, moments where he felt like a ghost among the living. If he was going to guide her toward clarity, he needed to be honest about his own vulnerabilities. "Messy is part of the process. Trust me," he said, his voice steadier now. "When I was pushing through my own barriers, I often felt overwhelmed, unsure if what I created was enough. One of the best things I learned was to embrace the mess, to let it fuel my forward motion." Jack watched as Emily absorbed his words, the cogs in her mind shifting ever so slightly. Their exchange felt electric, full of potential. "I guess I've always expected it to be perfect from the start," she replied, her brow furrowing. "But every time I think about taking a chance, it feels like this weight is pressing me down, telling me I can't. The fear of what others think is so suffocating." "Let it go," Jack advised softly. "What other people think doesn't define your worth. You have to honor your voice, even if it feels quiet or drowned out. Start with what you feel, and see where it takes you." As he spoke, Jack felt a surge of motivation rushing through him. His desire to support Emily was intertwined with his own need to redefine his failures and reinvest in his passions. Perhaps they could unearth the hidden treasures of creativity together. Reclaiming their voices would mean not just crafting a brighter future for Emily, but for himself as well. "Maybe I'll just doodle something," she admitted, her tone still laced with a mix of enthusiasm and doubt. "Flipping through all those sketches felt like looking at different versions of myself, pieces that don't add up. Then let's look at them, he encouraged, fighting back an internal swell of concern. Even if a piece doesn't feel completed, it still tells a story, doesn't it? We'll uncover whatever truths lie within those sketches. Emily nodded slowly, a flicker of determination igniting in her eyes. But even in this moment of budding optimism, the specter of fear lingered, threatening to steal her momentum. Jack felt the urgency to push through, to give her the concrete support she needed to navigate past the uncertainties that held her captive. As they shifted to stand, a thought grazed the edges of Jack's mind. Just out of curiosity, what do you think your peers would say if they were faced with their own thoughts and fears? Her face fell for a second, a melancholic expression flowing over her features. Maybe they feel the same way but are too afraid to admit it. The ache in Jack's chest intensified. They were both moving through the same labyrinth of fear and creativity. Understanding this connection unleashed a wave of responsibility within him. He was not just a guide, but a fellow traveler, embarking on a journey of reclaiming authenticity. As they stepped into the workspace, a new dimension awaited them, rich with the promise of exploration. Jack felt a palpable shift in the air, as if the very walls were bending toward possibility. Yet a thought loomed, challenging his commitment. Was he truly ready to divulge his own burdens, even as he supported Emily in unearthing hers? Would his willingness to confront his past amplify the doubts that lay ahead? "Dad, can we do this together?" she asked, trying to mask her excitement with a nervous laugh. "Together," Jack echoed, a renewed determination weaving through his veins. But as they faced the blank canvas of their future, he couldn't shake the feeling that revelations awaited them, ready to surface when they'd least expect it. What would the unfolding narrative reveal about their intertwined journeys? Had they enough courage to unveil the truths of their past, and how might those truths shape their tomorrow? Inside the workshop, the air buzzed with anticipation, thick with a blend of nervous energy and unspoken fears. Jack glanced at the expanse of white canvas before them, a space that was initially daunting, but now appeared as a blank slate teeming with potential. He felt a knot of anxiety loosen as Emily's presence anchored him. Together, they were venturing into unknown territory, navigating emotional landscapes that had remained unacknowledged for far too long. "Let's just talk through your sketches first," he suggested, taking a seat across from her at the cluttered table. "Tell me what each piece means to you. I want to understand where you're coming from." Emily hesitated, biting her lip before spreading a few colorful drawings across the table. Each image represented fragments of her psyche, some whimsical, others dark and chaotic. Jack leaned forward, genuinely curious, feeling excitement swell within him. This was a different kind of work, engaging with raw personal narratives instead of the calculated strategies and presentations he often prepared at the office. "This one," she started, her voice trembling slightly, "is me trying to escape, but I always feel like I'm chained down, you know?" Jack observed the heavy strokes, the jagged lines, and the way the colors clashed unpredictably. "It's powerful," he said. "There's a lot of emotion there. Is that how you feel in your day-to-day life?" Emily nodded, eyes widening. "Like I'm fighting against something invisible, always on the verge of breaking through but never quite managing it." A recent memory flashed through Jack's mind, a meeting filled with overly critical feedback. In that moment, he had felt similarly trapped, wrestling with an inner voice that insisted he wasn't good enough. "I think a lot of people experience that feeling," he replied thoughtfully. "I do too. Maybe what you're feeling isn't just personal, it's a shared human experience." This notion nodded inside him, generating both comfort and discomfort. Was it wrong to draw strength from her struggles, to use her journey to face his own inevitable confrontations? "I often compare myself to others," Emily confessed, her voice lowering. "And it just makes everything worse. I see their successes and I feel so small. Jack's heart sank as he remembered his own moments of spiraling self-doubt while scrolling through social media, watching peers achieve what he felt had eluded him. What if we flipped that notion, he proposed. Instead of viewing their success as a measure of your worth, think of it as inspiration for what's possible. Your path is uniquely yours, and the process is what enriches it. Emily's eyes sparkled with newfound insight, but he could still detect a flicker of skepticism. But it's hard, Dad. How do I cultivate that belief every day? By practicing it, Jack replied resolutely, and by being honest with yourself. It's okay to feel small sometimes, but that doesn't define your value. Find what fuels your passion and redirect that energy toward your creations. The conversation unfolded, each stroke of understanding building upon the last. They dove deeper into Emily's sketches, and Jack began to realize how much her voice resonated with his own internal dialogue. As the hour pressed on, he uncovered secrets within his daughter that were entwined with his own. They were not just sharing words, but an intimate exchange that felt revolutionary. The vulnerability they offered up felt almost like a release, echoing the promise of newfound growth. Yet, a dark cloud lingered, reminding him that to fully support Emily, he would need to reckon with his silence. Internally, Jack weighed the risk of sharing his own struggles against the potential for empowerment. Would revealing his past inadequacies reinforce her doubts, or could it help dissolve the chains she felt binding her? Emily, he began cautiously, sensing the gravity of what he was about to expose. I need to tell you about the fears I've fought against. Before we go further, it's important you know I'm on this journey with you too. Her expression shifted, curiosity ever present, though tinged with apprehension. What do you mean? Jack inhaled, bracing for the possibility of repercussions. He was stepping onto a bridge of vulnerability, with no clear sight of what lay ahead. Let's just say, he paused, words heavy with gravity. I've faced my share of darkness, the kind that comes from within. I want you to know that you're not alone as we explore our truths together. And just as he laid himself bare, a sound erupted from deep within the workshop, a startling crash as a shelf loaded with art supplies teetered and fell. Emily gasped, and a cacophony of jars and papers scattered across the floor, engulfing them in chaos. Jack's heart raced. The unexpected disruption sent their burgeoning intimacy reeling. In that instant, both of their vulnerabilities hung in the air, unresolved and shimmering with uncertainty. Would they have the strength to confront this distraction, or would it eclipse their progress? Let's pick this up together, he said, the chaos echoing the very tumult they had begun to address. Jack held his breath, waiting for Emily's response, knowing that whatever happened next could either dismantle the fragile bond they had started to forge or propel them deeper into their journey of discovery. Jack felt the weight of urgency hang in the air as they began to gather the scattered supplies. Each jar lifted, each paintbrush returned to its rightful place, felt symbolic of their attempts to mend what had unraveled. The chaotic moment had jolted them, yet it also served as a catalyst for progress, an external reflection of their internal struggles. See, Jack said, trying to lighten the mood amidst the scattered remnants. Just like this chaos, life can feel messy sometimes, but we can always clean it up and create something new afterward. Emily chuckled lightly, brushing dust from her hands, a flicker of amusement breaking through the tension. I guess that's true. There was something in her voice that hinted at acceptance, an invitation to continue unraveling their shared complexities. As they finished collecting the remnants, Jack felt a sense of clarity wash over him. Engaging with Emily had awakened his dormant understanding of what it meant to empathize, not just as a father, but as a fellow artist navigating the unpredictability of life. Can we set that aside for a moment? Jack said as he leaned against the table. I feel like I need to share more about those fears I've kept locked away. With her attention now firmly on him, he moved to the forefront of his own anxieties that had lingered for far too long. I used to think that my worth was entirely tied to my success in the business world. I chased after deals, accolades, and recognition, he admitted, his tone steady but real. But in doing so, I lost touch with the things that truly matter, especially my connection with you. Emily's gaze held strong, her interest revealing itself, signaling she was eager to understand more about the journey that defined her father. You felt pressure too? Just like I do? She asked, her voice revealing a sense of camaraderie. Yes, and it paralyzed me, he confessed. I was so focused on climbing the corporate ladder, I neglected the foundations of my own life, relationships that mattered. I often feel like I'm running, like my worth depends on being the best. But I've learned that true worth comes from being genuine, both as a father and a person. The silence that followed his admission hovered with understanding, an unspoken acknowledgement of the struggles they shared. Do you think you'll always feel that pressure? Emily asked, a hint of genuine curiosity woven into her question. Or is it possible to let it go? Jack hesitated before responding, needing to sift through the instinctive fear that lived alongside the optimism. It's a continuous journey, Em. I think the key is to recognize when the pressure becomes too much, when it starts to detract from who you are. Just like your art. It's a process, right? There will be days when it feels impossible, but that doesn't mean you can't create beauty. They exchanged smiles, a moment of connection birthed from vulnerability. Jack felt renewed determination building within him, akin to the first strokes of color on an empty canvas. As the shadows of self-doubt began to recede, Emily added shyly, I guess I've been waiting for a sign that it's okay to be imperfect, Dad, that I don't have to have it all figured out. He nodded encouragingly, buoyed by her readiness to take that leap alongside him. You're not alone in this, Em. We all stumble. We all have rough drafts that need to be rewritten. But that's where the magic happens, in the messiness of creating. As she processed his words, Jack felt that today was a pivotal point in their relationship. He wanted to support her exploration without imposing his own insecurities. Let's make a pact. No matter how messy this journey gets, we'll navigate it together, okay? Her expression softened, illuminating a direct connection that felt like a breakthrough. Together, she echoed, the slightest laugh breaking through the resolve. And maybe I'll finally be brave enough to share my art with others. The prospect finally settled within him, infusing his heart with warmth. He could see the reality of her talent glowing through the shadows of uncertainty. That would be amazing, Emily. I'll be there every step of the way. As they resumed their creative space, Jack felt a sense of balance emerging between their roles, the father, the guide, and the learner. Together, they were crafting a new narrative, one that granted them both permission to grow, evolve, and embrace the untamed beauty of imperfection. Days turned into weeks, and as they continued their collaborative journey, Jack witnessed a profound transformation unfold within Emily. She began to exhibit a palpable confidence, sharing her artwork not just within the confines of their home, but with her peers at school. One weekend, when the initial warmth of spring broke through the clouds once more, the two found themselves at a local community fair, nestled in the heart of their town. Across the park, an exhibit space featured student artwork from their school, an event where creativity flourished and vulnerability sparkled in every creation. Are you ready? Jack asked, his heart quickening as they approached the displays adorned with her signature touch. I think so, Emily replied, a hint of trepidation still evident in her voice. Yet as she glanced around, a wave of newfound strength radiated from her very being, urging her forward. They stepped through the entrance, and just as they found the section featuring Emily's art, she stopped short, breath catching in her throat. The colors, the light, the very essence of who she was lay stretched before them for everyone to see. Her gaze lingered not just on her work, but on the people observing it. Friends, classmates, and even strangers pausing to admire her passion. I did it. My heart is out there, she breathed, disbelief painting her expression. "See? It's beautiful," Jack said, feeling swelling pride but also recognizing the duality within him, both the exhilaration of her success and the understanding of his own journey toward present parenthood. It was during that moment, amid the bright colors and buzzing energy, that Jack felt solid confidence within himself rise. Their journey was no longer just about art or overcoming shadows. It was a testament to transformation, a portrait painted with resilience and shared goals. "You've conquered those sleepless nights, Em," he said proudly, as they toured the exhibit. "You've demonstrated courage in letting your voice sing through your art, and I couldn't be prouder." As they lingered in the vibrant energy of the fair, Jack felt the recognition surround him. A newfound competence earned through collaboration and vulnerability. He may have set out initially to support Emily through her struggles, but he emerged transformed too, finding fulfillment in being present. He had faced the fears that lingered within, allowing them to dissolve into a more profound sense of purpose, a commitment to always nurture the journey of both of their creative lives. "Let's keep this going," Emily said with bright clarity, the exhilaration of the moment pouring out of her wholeheartedly. "Together." Jack nodded, feeling the corners of pride aligning within him. Together indeed. And as they stood side by side in the blossoming spring air, he knew this was just the beginning. They had faced their fears and found strength in each other, emerging transformed, both as individuals and as partners on a creative journey who had finally learned to trust one another. Now, more than ever, he felt prepared to embrace the unpredictability of their futures, for they had entered a new chapter filled with promise, one where shadows no longer governed their path, and the beauty of their unique individual journeys shone brightly. Don't wait even one more second to subscribe to the channel. You need to subscribe now to catch the next wave of exclusive emotional stories that inspire. If you found this journey meaningful, leave a like now. Your support fuels the algorithm and lets us grow. Comment your thoughts on this conclusion and share your personal growth stories with us. And most importantly, share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to witness this powerful transformation. This is the moment to show your support.